This is Brian with Turpmechanic. I'm filming this video on behalf of all of you guys who have a Bermuda grass lawn and are considering overseeding that Bermuda grass lawn with annual ryegrass for the winter, otherwise known as winter rye. Now, as you see back here, this is Bermuda grass in the spring of 2024. It's been coming out of dormancy, and I have just killed off the annual ryegrass in the lawn. So I'm filming the first part of this video in late spring of 2024, but I'm not going to be publishing this video until the fall, maybe September or October of 2024, because I want to show you the progression of what happens when you transition back to Bermuda grass from winter rye or annual rye. Obviously, putting annual ryegrass down for the winter is going to give you a nice green lawn while your Bermuda grass goes dormant. That's the reason to do it. If you want to have a nice green lawn that's living and doesn't look like straw, then the annual rye is going to look amazing all winter long. So long as your winter overnight temperatures don't drop below freezing, it's going to look amazing. But that transition from winter into spring is very troublesome. Some people just wait for temperatures to get hot enough for the annual ryegrass to die off, and that works great if you live in a very hot climate where you can very easily get up to 100-degree temperatures by May or June. But if you live in an area like myself where Bermuda grass, warm season grasses are common, but temperatures don't normally get up to 90 degrees until proper summer, June or July, then the annual ryegrass is really going to start looking like a weed in the middle of your Bermuda grass lawn very quickly. Then you start thinking, oh, well, I'll just kill it off with herbicides. Well, what a lot of people don't tell you is that those herbicides that go and try to kill off things, they don't work 100%. The efficacy rate on pretty much all herbicides is very high, but it's not 100%. As you can see back here, I'm going to get up close so that you can actually see, although I have sprayed this lawn to kill off the annual ryegrass and allow the Bermuda grass to come back out of dormancy without the shade or the competition of the winter rye, there's still winter rye growing. And now, as we're pushing into June, I have to decide, do I just let that annual ryegrass sit there and look like a weed infesting my Bermuda grass lawn, or do I spray it with herbicide again, trying to get nearly a full kill? All right, I was just standing over there. Now here I am. You can see that I still have some spots where my Bermuda hasn't come back yet, notably up by the front sidewalk and right here. Still a little thin right along the edges. But most places the Bermudas come back pretty well. But when we get down close, let's say right here. See those long, tall pieces right there? That is annual ryegrass. They grow upright, a little bit quicker, they're a little bit more stemmy, they don't look as good. I could just come in here and pull them out of the ground because they are shallow rooted. But that's hard to do over an entire lawn space. See if I can get this on camera. Pretty much everything sticking up tall is annual ryegrass that didn't die. And it's pretty much everywhere in the lawn. Here's a nice little example. This area, the Bermuda, is still a little bit thin in this patch. It's going to fill in pretty nicely over the next couple weeks or so. But there's just so much annual rye. It just looks like stemmy weeds. Now this is the most sluggish of the entire areas of Bermuda grass. I might even need to do some sprigging to fill this area in. But you can clearly see a lot of this annual rye died. I mean, most of it died, but a lot of it is starting to come back even after being sprayed out. Now, if you do decide that you want to overseed your Bermuda grass during the fall time, then that's a great option. I loved having the winter ryegrass all through those winter cooler months of the year. I loved it. And by the time fall rolls around, I'm going to have to decide whether I'm going to do it again. But this time of year, I'm pretty annoyed with it. And I don't want to spray this lawn again with herbicides to continue trying to kill off that annual ryegrass. But I think I'm going to, because I don't see temperatures in my neck of the woods getting up into that 90-degree plus range for a long time to come. And I just don't want the lawn looking like it's got weeds infested through it for the next 6-7 weeks. Not to mention the fact that if I ultimately decide to not overseed with annual rye again in the fall of 2024, I don't want any of this stuff to just randomly make it through the summer and still be there in the fall. It's probably unlikely to happen, and if it does, it's probably pretty easy to hand weed that stuff out. But I think I'm probably going to spray it down one more time. Now I'm going to leave you, again, since I'm filming this video many months in advance, I'm going to leave you with some shots of the lawn as it progresses through the summer season, through the late spring, early summer season, and then ultimately the video will go live in the fall. But the plan here is to not mow this grass. I'm going to keep letting what annual ryegrass is still living here, keep letting it grow up a little bit. I'm actually going to put some fertilizer down to help the Bermuda grass continue spreading into those thinner areas. And then I'm finally, ultimately, in maybe about a week or so, going to spray the entire lawn one more time with Certainty herbicide, which is going to kill some of the weeds that are in the lawn, like the legitimate weeds, but it's also going to kill off annual ryegrass without touching, without harming the Bermuda. So I don't really want to do that, but that's what I'm going to do. All right, here we are 3.5 months later. I'm recording this on September 17th, 2024. As you can see, the Bermudagrass lawn did pretty good over the course of the summer. There's not a little drip or blip or anything. There's no annual rye whatsoever in that yard. I could comb it all day long and can't find anything. I hadn't found anything in months. So the second application of Certainty that I did in June did its job. I didn't want to put 2 applications down, but it certainly did work. Let me go take you up close so you can look at it while I talk. Basically what you see here is dense Bermuda in the middle. There's a tiny bit of nutsedge in there, so if you got a keen eye, you'll notice that. Plus there's a little bit of a kikuyu infestation here, which I'll deal with. But other than that, you're looking at Bermuda, and you've got shortcut Bermuda, we've got moderate cut, and then tall cut Bermuda in the middle. I'm a weirdo, and I've been managing it at 3 different heights all summer long. Everything in the middle is fairly dense and mature. Things on the edges is where the Bermuda spread throughout the summer. Like for instance, this little corner here, this was largely no Bermuda whatsoever 3 months ago, and everything spread in. So in terms of root mass, there's going to be less root right there, but we're going to get plenty of sun. So we're on the north face of this house. We're going to get plenty of sun over the next handful of months. So that is going to continue growing. Basically everything here is going to continue growing very well for the next couple months, even though, I mean, we could push into November and it will still be growing well because it's getting enough sun. Now over by the house, that's different. We're already September 17th. I mean, this is basically almost equinox. So equal sun and night. As the sun continues to get lower in the sky, this shadow line is going to go further and further out. Our sun sets right over that house, but as fall progresses towards winter, it starts setting closer to over there. So everything here is going to get an enormous, almost 100% shade for a handful of months over the course of the winter. So all of the Bermuda grass that's right here, all of this was dirt back in July. It was only annual ryegrass. Over the course of the summer, all the Bermuda has filled in, but now we're to the point where we're going to get an extreme amount of shade right here all along. So a lot of this is going to thin out. If I don't overseed it, it's going to potentially be a lot of bare dirt. I actually don't think that that's going to be that big of a deal because as we're pushing into, there's my first Halloween decoration. As we're pushing into the dormant season, so the soil here is going to be cooler than it is over there. So everything over here is going to continue growing and stay out of dormancy longer than this stuff is. But it will go dormant. Soil will be cooler. There's no sun here. And although this might turn into a lot of dirt, I believe it's going to come out of dormancy fairly early in the season next year, simply because I've got full coverage. And if I don't put annual ryegrass down this year, which I don't think I'm going to do, here, I'm making the decision on the fly. I am not going to put annual ryegrass down this year because the annual ryegrass forces or pushes the Bermuda grass into dormancy a little bit earlier than it would have otherwise, and it delays the Bermuda coming out of dormancy in the spring. So by the time spring rolls around, February, March, the sun is going to be the same thing that it is right now. So by the time March rolls around and our soil temperatures start coming back up, I believe the Bermuda in this area is going to be significantly more dense in April and May than it was earlier in 2024 in April and May. April and May, I still had a vibrant annual ryegrass lawn. The Bermuda was hiding underneath. It was lurking like this wolf. Anyway, with that said, I've decided that I did the one season of annual ryegrass for the winter, and I don't think I'm going to do it this season. Maybe I'll change my mind in future winters, but instead of putting annual ryegrass down, what I get to do, because if you're going to put annual ryegrass down, you're putting seed down. And if you're putting seed down, then that means you cannot put down a winter pre-emergent. So what I am going to do, instead of put the seed down, is I'm going to continue fertilizing this lawn and pushing it as much as I possibly can, because a lot of it was thin. So I've got rooting in new areas, and I want to keep pushing growth and rooting throughout the course of the fall. I've got an entire root growth guide, which I'll link to down in the description below, but that's not the point. I'm going to keep pushing this Bermuda as long as I possibly can throughout the fall, but I'm also going to put down a pre-emergent because I had a lot of Poa annua in the lawn last year. Now it blends in really nicely, like Poa annua blends in really nicely with annual ryegrass. So if you do have a Poa annua problem and you put the ryegrass down, you're going to have the Poa, but it's not going to stick out like a sore thumb. That is a very big benefit of putting that annual rye down. But since I'm not going to put the annual rye down, I'm going to put a pre-emergent down to stop the Poa annua from germinating and some of the other winter weeds. There's a smattering of them, not very much of any particular kind. It's the Poa is the main thing. There's a lot of different pre-emergents that you could use. I'll link to the one that I'm using, or I should say I'm going to link to my resource for all of the various pre-emergents that you could use, and then tell you which one I'm using down on the blog post linked below. If you got Bermuda, here's last parting thought. This is actually pretty important here. If you got Bermuda and you're thinking about putting annual rye down, but your temperatures, like your air temperatures, actually relatively normally get down to like 30 degrees in the middle of the winter, don't do it, because annual ryegrass, yeah, it's an annual, it's a winter rye. The thing is, extreme cold temperatures kill it just like extreme hot temperatures. It's a very fragile grass. So here we never freeze. Like we might get to like 35 degrees overnight once or twice, but we just don't freeze. I'm just gonna guess here. Let's say for instance, you have Bermuda and you live in Oklahoma. I'm pretty sure, I have to double check online, but I'm pretty sure it freezes in Oklahoma every single winter at some point. It might not stay freezing for very long, but it's probably dropping into the upper 20s overnight periodically. If you live in a place like that, don't put annual rye down. It's just a big old waste, because during those cold snaps, your ryegrass will also die. Here in this channel, I have an affectionate term, a funny affectionate term that I call the most forgettable lawn application of the year. I'm going to link to it right up here. Please watch it. It's all about putting down a pre-emergent in the fall. So if you do have Bermuda and you're deciding not to overseed ryegrass into it, then this forgettable application is the thing that makes your lawn look really good in January and February, when all of the other lawns have winter weeds in them with brown dormant Bermuda grass.